Income inequality has been something that the United States has been dealing with for a very long time. According to USA Today, the top 10% of wealthy Americans control 60% of the total wealth. The lower income class, however, only holds about 6%. Similarly, CBO posted that the top 1% has more than 4 times the amount of money than the entire bottom half of the economy. Additionally, CBO also took a poll that revealed more than half of Americans believe that the rich corporations do not pay their fair share of taxes. A lot of these problems stem from wage inequality. Wage inequality can be seen in unequal workplaces. Race is a heavy factor in this inequality. According to IT, it is apparent that the money black people from poor families made was less than their white counterparts. This trend, however, is on a slow decline because in the more recent years, the number of this disparity is decreasing. The racial wealth gap has been a problem for generations upon generations. According to an article concerning ZipRecruiter, immigrants can lower the average wage because they are more willing to work for lower pay because they have less opportunity for work in a foreign country. Employers are more likely to hire immigrants from poorer countries because of the easy acceptance of low wages that come with them. According to an article concerning the recent meetings among the Black Caucus, the first cause listed was the history of slavery and segregation and discriminatory policies. This wasn't just towards African Americans, however, but Native Americans as well. This means that due to their low income, local wage workers will not have the same access to opportunity. This will further feed into the cycle of poverty, and they'll have a much harder time trying to escape the poverty they were born into. Alongside this, the median wealth was approximately $62,000 for non-white Latino or Hispanic households, $285,000 for white households, and $536,000 for Asian American households. One of the main factors in employment is education. Education is crucial. Education is the reason why many people have high-paying jobs. It is also the reason why people get stuck in poverty. There are a couple of ways to get stuck in poverty. You can be born into it. You can make bad decisions with your money and end up owing more than you own. You can also just waste your money on expendable items and then not have enough to keep you afloat in a country with inflation on the rise. Economics is a great course that should be mandatory in schools. Sadly, however, it is only required to be offered at half of schools in the U.S., according to the American Economic Association. Economics deals with saving and investing and how to maintain your money and even help it grow. It also gives a behind-the-scenes point of view to how money works in the real world. Overall, education can help relieve the effects of some of these decisions. Education had been becoming less available over the more recent years, however. College tuition increased on average 3.63% annually from 2010 to 2022, according to the Education Data Initiative. Education is not free. Like most things, it has a price. Why is this a problem? If education is the key to lifting people out of poverty or helping them keep out of poverty, but it also has a price to it, wouldn't that make it kind of ironic? Education is what keeps money in people's pockets, but it also takes money from their pockets. If you are born into poverty, that is the worst case of poverty you can be in, because once you start your life, you might not even be able to afford the basic education that most people need. This goes to show how the access to the money earlier in life will lead to a more successful education in the future. Now, we have already established education as the source of future income, so this trend would go on to perpetuate the cycle of poverty that many American families endure. This is not the fault of educational establishments, however. The problem takes root in the government. Wealth inequality from jobs and wages is driven by education. If there is not equal opportunity for education, then how can there be equality with jobs and wages? The problem of inequality with jobs and wages enhances the overall inequality of wealth in America.
According to the National Partnership for Women and Families, in 2023, the gender wage gap between men and women increased. On average, women were paid 75 cents per dollar a man made. This was affected by race as well, since black women were only paid 64 cents on the dollar. Latino women were paid 51 cents on the dollar, Native American women were paid 52 cents on the dollar, and Asian American women were paid as little as 49 cents on the dollar. Though women are more likely to be in part-time or seasonal jobs, by only looking at the full-time employed women, they still only make 83 cents per dollar. In addition, wage gap can vary between states. For example, according to the National Partnership for Women and Families, in Utah, the wage gap is the widest, since the women are paid 61 cents on the dollar. In Vermont, however, the gap is the lowest, as women are paid 83 cents on the dollar. Due to the wage gaps, women combined are behind about $1.7 trillion on average every year compared to the men's yearly pay. Regardless of jobs and education level, the wage gap is always present. This gap even worsens with age, since women 15 to 24 typically face a 20-cent wage gap, but as they age and reach 45 to 64 years old, the wage gap widens to 27 cents. This is most present in ages 35 to 44, as this is when people typically have children. This is called the motherhood penalty, which accounts for nearly 80% of the gender pay gap, since when women have children, they are paid less. According to IWPR, studies show that each child they have who is under 5 years old will reduce their typical earnings by 15%. Along with this, they tend to struggle more with being hired or getting a raise compared to women with no children. Because of this, they tend to work in a lower wage job where they get less benefits. Because childcare costs so much, they tend to take time off work or work less.
The key to staying out of poverty is to begin growing wealth. Prices will incline, and that is just a fact. It is imperative to make sure that your growth of wealth is increasing faster. It is said that the bottom quintile of Americans, based on wealth class on average, are more in debt than they are out of it, according to the Urban Institute. There are a couple of measures that people can take to remedy this. Numerous organizations offer aid to those in need. A lot of this aid is used for families who are struggling to pay bills or pay for groceries. These organizations could actually be doing their participants a disservice, though. A lot of the organizations have a requirement of sorts. According to the same article, in order to be eligible for a lot of the financial aid that organizations offer, you have to have less than a certain amount of money to your name. So if a person, for example, had $1,100 and the cutoff for aid was $1,000, that person in question would likely try to spend that extra $100 in order to receive the aid. The aid would likely be more than the $100 they spent to receive it, but this is still a big problem. This discourages people from saving their money and instead promotes them spending it. This qualification for aid keeps people from saving their money and keeps them in a perpetual state of need. Another problem when it comes to wealth-building barriers is the initial cost. A lot of money made in the U.S. over the recent years has been from real estate, but the initial cost of buying a property is huge.
People in poverty don't have the credit scores necessary to take out big loans so that they may start building wealth. Another thing that people grow their wealth with is stocks. Investing is a skill that needs to be learned and likely isn't readily available to be taught. As mentioned earlier before, education is lacking with poverty-stricken areas, especially education in economics. So people have neither the knowledge nor the resources to start building wealth and getting out of the poverty they were born into.
A big contributor towards wage inequality is bias when hiring new workers. This stems from any unconscious bias that recruiters may have, including age, gender, race, and socioeconomic bias. Due to these biases, certain races or genders may have a higher chance of being hired, causing certain people to be left behind. Since these biases have such a large effect on wage inequality, AI systems would be used to only focus on qualifications of the people being interviewed. These systems will first help by programming algorithms that completely ignore anything that could cause bias, such as gender, race, or culture, and only hire based on who has the best qualifications. This can not only help reduce bias in recruitment processes, but it will reduce the gap in wage inequality. A hybrid approach can also be used, meaning the AI can pick the initial candidates and a human can go over the choices, which, according to Horton International, will ensure no problems have been made in the process and enhance the overall fairness.
Black and Latino students often attend underfunded schools, which leads to a lower academic performance and fewer chances to get into college, according to the Economic Policy Institute. This unfair system makes it harder for these students to break out of poverty and get well-paying jobs in the future. Schools and communities of color usually lack the resources needed for things like updated textbooks, technology, or extracurricular programs, all of which are essential for a good education. A report from the Learning Policy Institute shows that the increasing funding for these schools could make a huge difference. With more resources, schools could improve graduation rates and help more students get into college. Early education programs like Head Start are also important. These programs, which focus on children from low-income families, help kids develop skills they'll need for school and life, setting them up for success from an early age. Another big issue is student loan debt. Research from the Brookings Institution found that black students are hit hardest by student loans. This is why they tend to take on more debt than other groups and often struggle to build wealth later in life. This means that they have a harder time buying homes or saving for the future. One way to fix this would be to offer free community college and lower interest rates on student loans. These steps could help more students graduate without being weighed down by debt. If we want to close the racial wealth gap, fixing education is key. By providing better funding for schools, supporting early education, and making college more affordable, we can give Black and Latino students a fair shot at success. These changes won't just help individual students, they'll help create a more equal and thriving society overall.
Making education better and easier to access is extremely important for helping people succeed in inducing an evenly educated society. One big idea is starting early. Programs like Universal Pre-K and Head Start help young kids, especially those from less fortunate families, get a good start in life. These programs help kids learn and grow so they do better in school later on, according to Othering and Belonging Institute. Another idea is making sure schools in poor areas get the same resources as schools in rich areas. Right now, some schools can't afford to pay teachers, buy good books, or computers. By investing more money in these schools, we can help all kids get a fair chance, according to Economic Policy Institute. In addition, government funding proportional to the population using the school system would help level the playing field. College is another issue. It is highly expensive, which stops a lot of people from going. Making college cheaper, especially for community colleges, can help most students go to school and graduate without huge debts. This is also according to the Economic Policy Institute. This being helpful, not everyone needs to go to a four-year college. We can create more job training programs that teach people specific skills for good-paying jobs. These programs are perfect for people who want to start working sooner and don't want or need a college degree. In the end, the system needs to reward the hardworking citizens and invoke an incentive to put effort into their professions. To support parents in the workplace, specifically mothers, there are several different benefits that need to be implemented into every company. Our first way of solving this problem is by implementing paid parental leave and more flexible working hours into every company, even for part-time workers, though theirs will not be as much as the full-time workers. According to IWPR, part-time workers are not as eligible for these benefits, making it harder for mothers to pay childcare, which is why they should still have these benefits, but not as much as full-time workers, so the company can still afford it. The next policy that will help improve the work quality of mothers is by giving more flexible work hours. Flexible work hours can be given to mothers returning from maternity leave to have remote or hybrid working hours, temporary part-time roles, or staggered work start and finish times. According to MavenClinic.com, this will allow mothers to be able to have a less stressful time balancing work and their time to care for their child. A staggered start and stop time will help mothers work shifts at hours that work better for them, so that they have time to take care of their child and the company still has enough workers. Helping people save money and build wealth in America is extremely important for giving families financial security, reducing inequality, and creating more opportunities for everyone. There are many ways to make this happen, especially for people with lower incomes who often have the biggest problem building wealth. The first method is to automatically sign people up for retirement savings plans past Social Security. Many workers don't save for retirement because they use their money for temporary amenities and don't think about the future. Programs that automatically enroll workers and offer extra benefits make it easier for people to save money without much effort. This kind of program helps people with lower incomes save for retirement and have money set aside for later in life, according to Othering and Belonging Institute. Another important step is giving people better access to affordable banking services. Currently, many lower-income families rely on expensive payday loans because they don't have access to regular banks. This costs them a lot of money over time. Offering lower-fee savings accounts and smaller loans can help families save more money and avoid falling into debt. Owning a home is another great way to build wealth. Homes usually increase in value over time, and owning one gives families something valuable to pass down. Without housing payments such as rent, accumulating wealth becomes a much smoother process. But many people, especially in minority communities, have trouble obtaining ownership. Things like high down payments or redlining are some of the main issues. Programs that help with making it easier to buy a home for the first time can open doors for more people to invest in property. This will no doubt contribute to building wealth in American families.